Hello there, welcome to the channel. This is Nerd.World History. Today, in this episode, I am going to be taking a look at the different Celtic tribes of the ancient British Isles, the Celtic tribes of Britannia. In case you're interested, Britannia was the original name of Britannia, which the Romans may have mistranslated, if I understand it correctly. I'm going to be starting this series with a Celtic tribe called the Silures, one I particularly like. They ruled an area over southern Wales and were very powerful. A very warlike and ferocious tribe that were the only tribe in the whole of the British Isles that managed to defeat the Roman army in a pitched battle. Not just using terrain to their advantage or fighting guerrilla warfare, they actually beat them in a set-piece battle. Very unusual for any Celtic force to do against an organised Roman army. Before we get started, if you like this channel, please like, share, subscribe, comment down below. And if you feel up to it, check out my other two channels, Nerd.World and Nerd.World Films, which are nothing like this channel. Films is all about movies, movie-related topics. Nerd.World is much more genre-focused, but it's very broad. Everything from cult television to science fiction to comic books, anything I feel like, really. Links in the description below, and with that said, let's get started on the Silures. The Silures were a Celtic tribe or possible confederacy of tribes from southern Wales in Great Britain in the pre-Roman period. They were first really encountered by the Romans in approximately AD 48 when the Romans invaded their territory as they proceeded to conquer Britain. They were joined by Caratacus, who had been the leader of the Celtic resistance against the Romans and the Catuvellauni tribe upon the Roman invasion, but with the defeat of his tribe he fled to Wales and he decided to lead the Ordovices and Silure tribes against the Romans. When the Silures were sort of knocked aside, he moved north and carried on with the Ordovices until he was eventually captured. The Silures themselves, according to Tacitus, may have been migrants to Britain, as he described them as having a darker skin and dark curly hair generally in appearance, which was more consistent with the native peoples of Hispania, Spain. So they may have been Celtic migrants to Britain, although when that happened at exactly what time is unknown. Whether they were conquerors or whether they came in for some other reason is unknown, or whether they were part of a larger confederacy. Again, these are all unknowns as they're simply not recorded. They did, however, put up fierce resistance against the Romans, waging a continuous guerrilla war against them, so ferocious and so violent that the Roman general who was fighting them stated that they should either be completely exterminated or transplanted from their native homelands in order to diffuse the violence. This only irked them on even further, to the point where eventually they surrounded a large Roman legion that was busy building Roman forts, pretty much obliterated it, obliterated the reinforcements the Romans sent in, took loads of Roman prisoners, and then used them as bargaining leverage with other Celtic tribes, sending them off as prisoners of war to be held by other Celtic tribes as a means of trying to unify a larger Celtic force against the Romans. The Silures were noted for being the only Celtic tribe in Britain to beat the Roman army in a standing battle. After 3 years of constant campaigning against them from AD 48 to 51, the Silures were nowhere near to being subjugated or defeated by the Romans. In fact, the Roman general who was attempting to subjugate them died before they could be fully conquered by the Romans. It was actually just after the death of Legate Scapula, that was the Roman who was in charge of their campaigns against them, that the Silures were able to defeat the Roman Second Legion that had been very successful in campaigns across Germania, Hispania and Britannia in the years up to this, defeating the Catuvellauni and fighting all kinds of Celtic tribes across southern England until they reached the Silures, and Silures defeated them. It's actually not entirely historically well documented how exactly the Silures became part of the Roman Empire. It's possible they were simply subjugated after many years of campaigning, which did take up to AD 78, basically 30 years of continuous campaigning in South Wales to fully subjugate them. Or they may themselves have got sick of the conflict and come to some kind of deal with the Romans, as the tribe was never obliterated or transplanted as Scapula had suggested. They were referenced by Tacitus, hinted at that they were subjugated, but there's no archaeological evidence one way or the other. It's the fact that the Romans are so ambiguous about it means they probably came to some kind of mutually acceptable compromise, eventually founding a Romanized capital of the Silures in South Wales, which was often regarded by the Romans as being the capital of that particular area of the empire and that particular tribe. The fact that the tribe was still recognised hints of that there was probably some kind of agreement. Slightly interesting segue. If the names Silure and Ordovicius sound familiar, that's because the names of these two particular Celtic tribes lent their names to the geological periods of Earth's history. This is due to paleontologists digging into the Silurian mountains in South Wales and looking at the different layers, and they named a layer after them. Same with the Ordovicius. The Ordovician period of history and the Silurian periods. Just where they get their names from. They're named after these two random Celtic tribes that used to live in Wales 2,000 years ago. Just an interesting segue I came across because I was kind of curious about their names. I thought it's a strikingly strange coincidence that they were basically named after periods of Earth's geological past. But anyway, there we have the Silures of Britain and how ferocious they were against the Romans, loyal even to Caraticus, a defeated leader. They were loyal to the Druids, and they fought to the last man pretty much until they came to whatever agreement they made with the Romans to stop fighting and all live together in peace in one happy empire, maybe. Not going to go into their post-Roman period, because at that period they basically stopped being an independent Celtic tribe and were just another subjugated state of the empire, however they viewed that or not. Okay, I'm going to carry on doing these videos. I'm going to do another video on each of the Celtic tribes across the British Isles, some of which I know off memory, some of which I might have to do a bit more research on, but the Silures are one of my favourites, so please like, share, comment down below, subscribe, tell me what you think of the Silures, what do you know about them, is there any particular piece of information I've missed about them, because to be honest, there's not really any figures or individuals who stand out in history about them that I could find. But I do find the idea that this lowly little tribe from South Wales was able to humble the Roman army for 30 years. In fact, Britain in total took about 40 years for the Romans to for the Romans to conquer. Had to cut that last bit there, I rambled on a little bit. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.